Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name's Hayden.
And this episode, we're going to be diving into the curriculum review. We're going to be taking a look at what piqued our interest, talking about artificial intelligence, financial literacy, life skills in general, maths fluency, and importantly, how we actually going to implement all of these things in what is already, in my opinion, quite a bloated timetable.
And let's not forget the Oracy framework, which is all about the importance of speaking and, Dylan, listening.
Huh?
Listening ears.
So the curriculum review has landed. It has been released. Lots of chat about it online. Overall, I think a lot of very promising stuff. I genuinely read a lot of the indications that were put forward to the government in this review by the expert panel. And I thought, you know what, these are really good ideas in general. There are a few niggling bits we'll talk about in terms of, how to implement it and what should be given priority, etc. But again, I think that was referenced in there. And, it very much said about how it's important to make sure this is manageable, etc. And the government have responded overwhelmingly accepting a lot of what's on there. So again, it looks like we're all on the same page. I think it's a positive thing. So I thought this would be a really good opportunity for us on this podcast just to break down some of the parts that we found interesting or stood out to us. We can't do everything.
Yeah, there's a lot on it. Obviously, we can't do all of those things right now. So we've picked out some bits that, we think would be worth talking about, basically.
Absolutely. So I want to start off with enrichment. This really piqued my interest because the review directly referenced something to do with basically how vital enrichment is for our children, etc. And they said the national curriculum was not intended to take up the entire school day. It's important the national curriculum maintains its position as an ambitious entitlement for all. However, schools have space to go beyond it to provide innovative practice, locally tailored content, and enrichment activities that help to ensure young people thrive in education and later life. I mean, we can't say it's a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. I like to think where it is right now as well. Obviously, enrichment's nothing new, isn't it? It's not like there's no teacher listening to this being like, oh, that's a good idea. Enrichment. I like that term. Get that on my wall. Like, obviously, enrichment is a thing. So why do you feel like there is a need to even bring this up again and bring it to the forefront of people's minds with the curriculum review? Is it not already happening?
I'm always reluctant to say, I don't want to come out and be like, don't focus on this. There's a million other things that are really important, or this isn't important. No, it is. It's vital.
Yeah.
Like you said, I don't think this is news to teachers. I don't think people are suddenly going to read this and go, oh, we do need to do enrichment. We do need to make sure there are sports things going on for us. We get all that. But, in the current context, let's be realistic for a second. There are a lot of factors which lead to reasons why schools might be doing less and less of it than before. Cost. Post-COVID, the cost of coaches is insane.
It's disgusting, isn't it?
It's insane. Unless you've got the Tower of London down your street from your school where you can walk to and get this amazing experience, most of the country don't have that. The cost of hiring coaches outweighs that of the actual event itself half the time, which puts school off. There's less money than ever. There's loads of reasons. Teachers, it takes time to arrange these things.
Yeah.
It's, we've both arranged trips in the past. It is a time drain.
And there are fewer people than ever in schools
Exactly.
because of cuts to funding for the last 20 years. So where someone else might have shared the burden of planning that trip, if it is a school trip, then maybe that person's not there anymore. And it is slow. There's a burden on teachers to do these things. And we often say on this podcast, we're the first people to say, oh, you shouldn't have to be doing all these extra things outside of your directed time. So I can't sit here and be like, so come on, guys, let's do a bit more enrichment. Let's think about all these extra things we can plan for the kids, whilst also simultaneously saying you're already stretched. Everything you do is already taken for granted. Stop doing extra things, otherwise the system will never change. Yeah. So I can kind of see why we're in the position we're in, where this curriculum review is coming out and saying, oh, we really should reprioritize enrichment. It's like, that's great. One of the other things it mentioned was that time. The national curriculum, it was not intended to take up an entire school day. Okay. It's one of those statements where I'm like, it's not helpful. No, to say it wasn't intended. Okay, let's just talk about reality. I don't care and I honestly don't care about the intentions of the national curriculum. Written, from 2014 or even before. Let's just look at what's happening right now. The school day is incredibly bloated. We often talk about how it's hard to fit everything into the school day, just as is, and there's lots of reasons to that. And we're going to talk more about the curriculum bloat and this stuff later because it comes up a bit later in our points. But what do we do then? Like, how do we fit enrichment in if it's not already happening in schools that are already stressed about fitting in a bloated curriculum? I don't know. Where do we start?
I think we need to be brutal as schools and really push back and say, okay, then I will do less. All right. I've got a history unit that's 6 lessons. Okay. All right. I'll do 4 or 5 lessons, and instead we'll have a Roman day.
Yeah.
Where we get activities out for the kids, and we'll do that. We have to be more brutal as schools. Okay, yeah, we will do that then. We will cut this. The reason schools are reluctant to do that is pretty obvious. What if Ofsted call next month and say we're doing a deep dive in history?
Exactly.
Okay. It's great. It's fantastic. Like we can point to this new framework. We can say why enrichment's really important. But ultimately, if the Ofsted inspector comes down on the fact that your chronology is off.
Exactly.
Because you've missed out something, because you had fewer lessons than before, they're not going to, getting the national curriculum up and going, well, it's just half a page. This is why, we made it less bloated. We did all this enrichment. It's great. I think it's the right answer, by the way, but I can see why schools are reluctant to do it because they don't want to be caught between a rock and a hard place when it comes to Ofsted coming in and saying, well, you didn't do this. And then you've got other people in the review saying, well, you need more enrichment. It's like, oh, well, do you know what? Unfortunately, I'm going to side with the people who have control and power over how my school is viewed and ultimately rate my school.
It's also easier said than done at the whole country level. I think it's very easy. You could probably go somewhere in the country and point to it and say, well, they're doing it really well.
That's what's happening, I think. They're saying this happens in some schools, so why is it not happening in that school?
I think there's some really obvious reasons. One of the biggest ones for me is just the physical location.
Yeah.
For 2 reasons, right? One of them's kind of a bit more, a bit less tangible. But number one, the big thing here was about local enrichment.
Sure.
You haven't got all the money to go on coaches and do all these other things. Okay, cool. Just use your local environment. Some people's local environment is very different to others, and there's maybe not as much to do, or maybe not as much to see that's related to whatever they're doing.
There'll be something, one thing, sure, but not everything, right?
Exactly, not everything. Whereas some places are obviously incredibly rich for this sort of thing, and it's easy for them. Like, why is no one else doing this? It's easy.
Yeah.
And the second thing is also money, not just for teachers and things, right? But how much money families have in your catchment area.
Right.
It's not always going to be the same. There will be some schools that genuinely just find it easier to say, right, we're doing this enrichment thing, it's £15 a head, everyone chip in, and we do one of these a term, and it's just not a problem.
Yeah.
There are other places where that is not a reality. That is literally impossible to do.
Yeah.
I worked in a school in the past where doing something like that was a huge challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one day I got sort of humbled because I said, oh, we're doing this, I want to do an enrichment thing. And I said, we're going to do a business fair.
Mm-hmm.
It's been really fun. The kids will need a little bit of money to spend on their businesses that they're inventing because they're going to do an enterprise sort of thing.
Sure.
And I just said to the head teacher, can we just ask the parents to sort of bring in £5 per kid, and then we can use that to invest? And he was sort of really quickly he was like, no. Yeah. He was like, that's not something we can ask our parents to do.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not going to work, and it won't work for everyone. We can't do that. We need to think of a different way to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas other places, that wouldn't even be a question.
A leafy suburb, they're already putting 30 quid a month voluntary donation in.
Exactly, right? So you just need to consider, I'm not saying that therefore we shouldn't do anything. I'm just saying you have to, it's easy to blanketly say, enrichment's good, we should do it more, everyone just crack on now. You have to consider these things that obviously impact it.
Put your money where your mouth is, because ultimately, honestly, those children in the more deprived areas need enrichment more than anyone.
Yeah, because
they're not getting it anywhere
else. They're probably less likely to get it at home.
So. Yeah, 100%. So do you know what? In general, I've got to say though, it's not something we can sit here and say it's bad.
No,
it's a great thing. It's fantastic, but we just have to be realistic.
Should be on the radar.
Another big thing in general was life skills. And I thought, that encompassed a lot. So, having a bit of a deeper dive into it, something that piqued my interest was media literacy.
Yeah.
This idea of actually teaching children how to understand and engage critically with what they're seeing in the real world in this era of fake news.
Yeah.
I think that is vital. And I was very, very pleased to see this, being put on a pedestal. And again, we'll talk about the logistics of it later, but I looked at this and I thought, can we pretend this is bad? Not in any way. The review considers media literacy to involve understanding and engaging critically with the messages conveyed through different media channels, including artificial intelligence. To empower young people to engage critically with the messages they encounter, the review recommends that the government strengthens the role of media literacy in English and in citizenship. So across subject, I can't see anything negative with this at all.
You know what some people are going to say, though, don't you? You know what some people are going to say. Oh, here we go. Lefty wokey teachers choosing what media my kids can probably pushing propaganda on them.
Watch
Don't
the
trust
BBC
this.
and turn off GB News. Maybe you should do that, but beside the point. Yeah, I mean, I find that so often in general.
Yeah,
where people are like, yeah, we should be against the fake news, and then they'll list not fake news and be like, we're against
it's just their agenda.
Like, oh, for goodness me.
It's not about fake news at all. It's just you saying exactly what your political views are and making sure everyone thinks everything else is dumb. That's what that is. That's
exactly.
not what I'm talking about is kids seeing AI videos that look indistinguishable from real life now and then using it to base a fact on, or discriminating on someone because they watch all these terrible things that can happen through misinformation or fake news, whatever you want to call it. It probably is important that at school, a place where we centralize, raising the next community of people, we probably should spend some time showing them how to navigate this. Especially, it's a new and ever-changing world. It's already crazy how good AI content is in terms of how real it looks. Give it 2 years.
Yeah.
Give it 3 years. Give it 10 years. Like, we need to be putting things in place right now to teach children in media, you know, how to differentiate.
Do you know what I always say to people who come back? Because some people say it's pretty obvious when it's AI. You can hear it slightly in the tone. It just looks a bit off. Sure. You can just tell when it's AI. 2 things. Number one, before you know it, you won't be able to tell. Right? That's the first thing. But the second thing is general public aren't that intuitive. Genuinely, they're just not. When the first ever films were released in the cinema, when King Kong was put in the cinema, right? We look at it now and we think it's laughable how obviously fake it is. People watched King Kong in the cinema and left and went to their family and said, "There's a giant gorilla in New York." They thought it was real because it's based on what you are used to seeing. You're used to seeing reels on your phone, short messages, short, sharp videos. And as soon as AI replicates that, it's already happening. You'll fool some people into thinking it's real. So for me, this is really important. And it has to focus on simply identifying what's real or not.
Yeah.
I think it's almost separate, genuinely, to then, you know, quantifying what's been said as a fact or fiction in terms of, okay, cool. Right, this person, this public figure did actually say this, or this public figure has had a deep fake. Identifying the difference between them is one thing that I think is really important. And then there's another layer, which is then actually, and this is in general now, whether it's print media, video, whatever it might be, to then actually look at facts and think, how can I verify this?
The reliability, credibility of sources, all that sort of stuff, which is something I feel like we've always kind of done a bit.
Exactly.
But bringing it to the forefront with alongside this does make a lot of sense. I think that's completely appropriate. So the other thing, obviously we're talking about life skills, and financial literacy is a huge one. Before we do that, I just want to, because I feel like we're talking about AI.
Yeah.
Another thing with AI is not just identifying, like you said, what's fake and what's real, but also just genuinely how to navigate it. I noticed that they've put that in there as well.
Yeah.
So the rise of AI and trends in digital information demand heightened media literacy, which we're talking about, and critical thinking, as well as digital skills. Just the actual ability to look at the tools and know how to use them to your advantage. It's not all bad. We're painting AI as if it's just this terrible thing that makes fake news. There's obviously great aspects to AI as well.
Do you use AI? I use AI a lot. Yeah. Teachers use it a lot in terms of just upping their productivity. But you're right. I think back to when I was in secondary school, and a lot of my time was spent on an Excel spreadsheet. And we'd learn about formulas, and we'd have like a project where we had an IT teacher, and he'd be like, "Yeah, well, can you think? Oh, how could we possibly get the sum of this and all this kind of stuff?" You know, at the time, good. Looking back now, you think kind of obsolete.
Oh, those lessons where I play Line Rider all the time. yeah, I remember those great lessons.
What was it like? We used to find a way to get into Miniclip and play Skateboard Stan or something.
Game, honestly, I was so awful.
But you know, it kind of was relevant at the time. I can see why we did it.
Yeah.
I think we should have done coding a bit sooner.
Yeah, I think
it's a big part now, and that's great. But even that now is becoming out of date.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say in terms of this AI is absolutely learn how to use it. But it is just, let's just be forward thinking for a second. In the same way that Excel became outdated to just do that, and then coding became a big thing, and coding is slowly becoming outdated to just be relied on. I think it's still important to do.
Yeah.
We need to just be careful with AI and think, okay, whatever we put in place within 5 years will probably be out of date. Yeah, and we'll be training people up when they're 12, 13, 14, 15, heading into the workplace when they're 20, 21, 22, and they're already behind. I'm not saying we don't do it. I'm just saying, I wonder if we can have some kind of framework here or some kind of idea which can extrapolate along. You know, this is going to develop, and whilst it does this, these are the skills you still need.
Yeah, I think it's so important that AI never encompasses computing, as in like it is just one unit. I still think we should be doing things like the Excel lessons. I still think we should be doing coding and stuff like that, because ultimately the problem with AI is it will get to the point eventually where AI, it relies on all of human input ever before to use, right? If we get to the point where we only use AI, there'll be no new human innovation like training AI. And I always think about that, and people mention it all the time in terms of the long-term downsides if we just
that's eventually when it has its own intelligence, it can do its own thing. That's the point,
I guess so. Yeah, sure. But like, I just think it's important. Like in computing, I mean, the curriculum review suggests putting it in within the computing curriculum. I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah,
I've already taught some AI units. I think some schemes of learning were quick on this in the last couple of years. Obviously, AI is very obvious; it was going to be huge.
Yeah,
we used iCompute, our old school, and within like a year of AI being huge, they were like, "Cool, we've got a new unit out," and I taught one in year 6, and it was really, really genuinely interesting, and it was pitched right for these kids, and it was just showing them this is what it is, and they were like fascinated. And I was thinking, crikey, as an adult, I've been able to use my life experience to kind of work out what AI is, but for a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, actually, it's really important we do show them, oh, this is what it is, by the way, because they just think it's magic.
And it's so true. And where it's replacing, we had a great talk with Greg Jenner, going back with Greg Jenner about AI, where it's almost being merged in with the search engine. So again, if you Google something now, you'll get an AI summary at the top. And I'm not saying it was always reliable beforehand, because you could go to a website anywhere and find out whatever you wanted, and it would say whatever you need to say. But you could kind of at least say, like, okay, well, this is from this website. This is a trusted website. This is from this website. I can't trust that because of these reasons. Now with the generative, like the AI at the top, kind of just giving you a summary, there's footnotes and things in there, but it's harder to get to, and it's kind of taking from 8 things at once. And it's sometimes wrong.
Yeah, it has been wrong.
And it has been wrong before, like, you know, to a point where you're like, okay, children need to understand what is going on here. This is an AI overview. This isn't what someone has written and cited exactly because of this source in this book.
And that goes back to your media literacy, which is like reliable sources, credible sources. Yeah,
just it's all moving in the right direction, isn't it?
Yeah, that's absolutely. I think so. I think there's a lot of people that it's fun to be negative, isn't it? And fun to like.
Oh, we know about that.
You know, of course. It can be though. Everything's so bad, and only pick out the bad bits, or even just insinuate that everything's bad. But I think these are all the right choices. Definitely. Even if you don't like AI, it's like it's almost irrelevant now. That opinion is irrelevant. It's happening. It doesn't matter anymore. You can be against it all you want. You'll just be left in the past. Like it's happening. Like, so we should probably,
and you should still talk about maybe the drawbacks.
Absolutely, we should.
Like we should
always critique it, but we shouldn't then bury our head in the sand and say, well, I'm not engaging with it. So, well, I tell you what, though, your kids will be. So we really should just be teaching them about it.
Yeah. There's one thing that I'm talking about being negative. The only thing I would say here, it caught my interest going through stuff. It mentioned about how AI presents a risk to assessment reliability. You know, if you're using AI to write your essays for you, etc. But then it made a link that I don't necessarily agree with. I wonder what you think about it reinforcing the fact that exams are the fairest way, therefore, to be assessing children, because you're in a timed condition, you're in a room without an AI bot. It's just you, your mind, and you're answering questions. That being fairer than maybe having access to AI. I don't think I agree. I really don't think I agree with that, because again, the reason is, at what other point in your life are you forced into those exam conditions to regurgitate what you know? There are some things where it's important to understand that you yourself have a certain fundamental level of understanding. I get that, right? I really do. So I understand why there's a role for exams in some situations, okay? But there are some situations where it doesn't matter. If off the top of your head in a timed condition in a test, your work is slightly less good than if you were just maybe at your own computer in your own office with an AI assistant helping you out, right? Well, you're still producing the work. You're still doing it to a certain level. I don't necessarily think that this means exams are now on a pedestal. They're way more important.
Right.
I think we have to move with the times as well with how we assess children and how we use artificial intelligence. It's a tool. When we're writing a dissertation on Word versus writing an essay, do we take into account that Word has spell check built in? Do we take into account that there's grammar that you can fix on the Word document that does it for you? Do we take into account that you could have Grammarly installed and it says, use this for being concise, etc., and getting to the point quicker? No, because it doesn't matter. And we accept those are just part of the tools that you get in a computer.
Yeah.
And that it's different to when you're in real life, writing things down. I think we just have to, I agree, accept that the landscape is changing and understand that. I just don't necessarily think it now puts exams on this pedestal.
I'd say the jump between writing things down and going to the tools that you get from Microsoft Word, though, is like a significantly smaller jump from going from Microsoft Word to AI, which can do the entire process for you.
Completely agree.
I think that's probably where that lies. Like, I can understand the analogy, but that's where I think people will push back.
No, I think you're absolutely right. All I'm trying to say is here, understanding that landscape has moved, I don't think means that coursework's pointless now and exams on a huge pedestal. I understand the benefit of it makes it clearer what you get from an exam, what you get from coursework.
Yeah, but it hasn't changed.
I don't think it's changed too much.
You still get what you get. We all know what we get from exams. It's a proof of knowledge.
I think it's a huge problem, by the way. I don't underplay this. There are definitely going to be students out there who just whack it into AI and honestly don't have a clue what they're even submitting.
Yeah.
So there's got to be ways around doing that. And, I think alongside maybe little tests or quizzes and stuff, I think that's a good thing.
I agree. Because ultimately, if a grade or certificate, whatever it is at the end.
Certification is right.
Yeah, I was going to say, I realised as I said it, I was like, there's a word. If they are essentially, what they are is a metric. They're a proof of knowledge, aren't they? They are a proof of understanding of something to qualify you for something else.
Yeah.
if the fundamental underpinning bit of that is that you don't have the knowledge at all because you've found a way around it, I can see the problem in that system.
Definitely.
I get it. I understand why a kid getting through, getting a B in their history, but they got they got an F on the exam, but they got an A triple star. I know it's different now. It's numbers, isn't it?
Yeah.
But they got really good grades in the coursework because the course was all faith. And they came out with a B, and then someone thinks, oh, they're not bad.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a problem because actually they don't know anything about it. They've just someone else has written it.
It's really funny because when I was at university, I was the opposite.
Really?
When I was at university, I got firsts in my exams.
Wow.
And 2s or lower even in my coursework.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't be bothered.
Yeah, I don't want to do the
I just
coursework.
could not be bothered. I was like, this is boring. Whereas I could retain the information and put something together really well in an hour. So that, but my point is, this is what it's rooted in, right? I fudged it. I had this ability to cram knowledge and put together a coherent answer and get facts in my head. In an exam, and I just crammed for that week beforehand, and I could get a first, and it got me up to a 2-1. But my coursework, it wasn't as good. Now, okay, cool. I could have also fudged that. That's the point I'm saying here. I don't think you can only fudge a thing. It's like, no, realistically, there were people who also got a 2-1 who had much more knowledge than me because I crammed and I got ready for the exam. I think there are drawbacks, is all I'm saying. I completely agree, and I hear stories all the time about how, especially with coursework, people. It's amazing you got nearly 4 marks in your coursework, but in your test, you like you said, you got hardly anything. That's a bit strange.
Yeah.
Whereas I think you can explain my one a bit more. Is I'm lazy.
It's funny how even in your situation you managed to fudge something because I can imagine the big counter argument the big argument for saying let's just get kids back in exam halls writing down their essays or whatever because then we know they're not sat there with AI on a computer. It's like apart from the Dylans who will write it all in AI beforehand, memorize the entire thing and go in there because they can cram all that knowledge. It's still it will still have an impact. We have to. I agree. I think we have to consider the change in landscape.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is right now. Maybe exams are still the best of all the options. They might be.
Yeah.
But we do have to consider how the landscape is changing. We can't. We're not going to stop that. There's lots of things now like AI, the tools that can assess whether something's been written by AI or not because of the way AI works.
AI
it doesn't actually write in. It doesn't write in like characters. If you know about this, it doesn't write in characters and words. It writes in like tokens, like symbols. Yeah. So you can actually, if you put something into the right machine, you can say, "Oh, this was generated by AI" because it's not written in the right way. But there's ways around it.
I'm just worried that this move benefits people like me more and more as I was at school. And there are just some people out there who work so hard, especially at their coursework, and do really amazing individual work and show off how much they know, who crumble in an exam.
Absolutely.
Who now,
that was me.
It's even more that you crumbled in both. Even more, there's even more disparity though, because it's like, well, you could have used AI. It's like, well, I didn't. This is my work. This is fantastic stuff, and I just don't do well in the exam.
Yeah.
And now we're deciding the exam is the only way to do it. It's frustrating. It's
I agree.
There are other ways of having knowledge, and that we should be assessing people. That's all I think. Basically, I just think we need to be really mindful of it. Yeah, for sure.
Let's talk financial literacy because that was the other part of these life skills we were talking about. Do you want to give us an overview of what this curriculum review was talking about?
Yeah, another fantastic addition. I think this is really good. We've been saying this for a long time. What would we add to the curriculum? Understanding of finance is vital, and it's crazy when you think about what do we actually want functioning members of society to have. A basic understanding of finance.
Yeah, of how their life works. People have been screaming about this for years, haven't they? I feel like even when I was at school, ever since I was at school up until now, I feel like I have consistently heard people saying, why are we not teaching children how life works so that the day they leave school at 18 or whatever, they're not walking into, they're blindfolded into life. Like, it's mental. What are we doing?
Yeah, completely. The review did nod to the fact that there are parts of financial kind of literacy and understanding already in the curriculum.
Yeah.
But they're not always taught, was the quote. So there's parts of it in maths, parts of it in citizenship, and it leads to low financial capability was their point. So the review recommended making citizenship, which I thought was interesting. They're going to put this into citizenship, including financial education in there, part of the national curriculum at Key Stage 1 and 2. So cool. Primary school, putting it into primary school. And furthermore, financial education's main home should be citizenship for applied concepts. But relevant mathematical concepts, percentages, compound interest, etc., still must be sequenced in the curriculum in maths first.
That makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Complete sense. It's the underpinning. It's literally we're saying make sure they understand the core concepts, the foundational maths knowledge underneath financial literacy, so that when we do talk about the tax system, we're not then sat there the entire time working out how to find 20% of something.
Exactly.
It's more like that. We know that from maths or teaching. This is how the taxation system works in the UK. Let's compare it to other countries.
Yeah, 100%.
Then you can have that conversation.
I actually really agree with it having a home in something like citizenship, because it's about society. It's about being a functioning member and an adult who can understand stuff. You know, there's always pushback. Oh, it's just too complicated. There's a reason kids don't understand about mortgages or anything yet, because they don't need to. They're too young, etc. And it's like, okay, cool, but they'll all be taxpayers. Do you know what I mean? Most of them will be taxpayers when they grow up. A lot of them will get a mortgage. So at the very least, what we need to make really clear is those key skills and teach them well in maths and make sure they are taught. But like, it's obviously a good thing, right? That you can then in citizenship go, by the way, you know, this thing we understood in maths, this will apply to every human ever when you come to taking a payday loan.
Yeah.
I think about payday loans, and I think they are horrible companies. Like, they're there to serve a purpose, which seems quite noble. You need some quick cash, I'll help you out. Here you go, pay me back over time. What it ends up being is just huge interest rates. Do you know when you see the small print on the advert, and it's like thousands of percent APR because it was over the year, and this was about being short-term loans. I feel like equipping people to understand what will happen if they don't pay back those kind of loans quickly, and how it can cripple you over a small amount of money.
Compounding interest in the wrong way, you know.
Exactly that. I think that is such a good thing to be teaching our next generation, just to think you've got to live within your means. You've got to balance your budget. This is what compound interest actually does, and it will do to you. It's not some abstract thing in a maths textbook. Sure, we've learned about the fundamentals, but now let's apply it. And I want you to understand how actually when you get a mortgage and it's 4% interest compared to 5% interest, that might not sound like much, but over the course of your mortgage, you'll be paying back an extra £80,000.
Yeah.
Make it real and tangible for them.
Significant amount. Something I didn't even know when I got a mortgage myself, and I, you know, looking back, I think I wish I knew this beforehand rather than learning as I go. Was just even what the percentages mean. Like if you know, I had a 2.3% interest rate.
I had a 1.9 at one point.
1.9. That's mad, and it's crazy looking back how I didn't even realize how good that was either. Right. And I didn't know what that meant, but you know, I wish someone said to me, "Oh, that means you take your whole mortgage amount and you pay that back every single year."
Yeah.
If someone said that to me, I'd probably be a bit more shocked. I was like, "Oh, wow," because I often think if you never get a short-term loan, you pay 2.3%. You're paying it on the entire loan. It's you take $1,000 out, you're paying back the extra 2.3% on that $1,000, and you pay it back. It's in one go. Whereas with mortgages, you're paying that every single year. And just little things like that. I wish I knew, like tax bands. With my year sixes, every single year of my career that I've had year six, I've always blocked out a week post SAS called Money Week or whatever I end up calling it, and I'll do at least one lesson where we just talk about tax and how it works. I remember working at Tesco's, right, and someone at the employee there told me it wasn't worth getting paid any more at a certain point, because then you'd go into the next tax bracket as if you pay that amount of tax percentage on all of your money, and said then you get less. And it was all just completely wrong. And I'm like 20 years old at this point. I had no clue. I should have learned that when I was 15, 16.
100%. And it's like when you say, oh, I'll tip into the 50% tax or 40% tax bracket, right? The higher threshold. And it's like, but that's not 40% of everything you earn. It's 40% of everything above that threshold. So I get it. Like, I understand why you might think, oh, that's frustrating, I'm not getting paid as much. But your income is completely safe up until then. You get 12.5 grand that you never get taxed on, no matter what happens. So again, if you're at the lower end and you think, oh, there's no point in me going to 14 grand because then I'll have 20% on 14 grand, I can do the maths. That's nearly 3 grand that I'll be, worse off. I'll have less money than I did when I had 12 grand.
That's what they were convincing me.
No, you won't. Yeah, because the people think, 14 grand going down gets you to like £11,200. Well, that's less than 12 grand when I wasn't getting taxed. No, it's 20% on the 2 grand above. So
stuff like that.
Just understanding that is vital. I always come back to student loan. Again, the financial literacy to at least understand what you're embarking on. I'm not saying it would mean that people wouldn't do it, but maybe it would make people more picky about what subjects they do. Maybe it would make people think, do I definitely want to do this? Because it essentially turns into a youth tax. You're never going to pay back your student loan. You're going to do above a certain amount, which is great. Only when you can afford to pay it back do you pay it back. But you end up just spending interest. It's just interest. If you look at your student loan right now, I can guarantee you that what you owe is more now than what you actually took out.
Well, here's an example for you. So Lauren, I've been with Lauren for nearly 8 years, and we've both been teachers that whole time. And
teaching, by the way, which you need a degree for. You have to do this.
So you've got to do this bit. It's non-negotiable, right? So she did the 3-year course at university. It was when fees are around £9,000 per year. She stayed at home.
Yeah.
But her, so in the whole time I've known Lauren, we've checked probably 5 times in this period of time because it's depressing. Despite her paying back the entire time as well, because she's been over the earnings threshold, so she pays 9% of her income over this threshold back to student loans, her debt has gone up. In the entire like 7 years. It's like over 50 grand or something now. It's ridiculous. And she's been paying back constantly, monthly, for like 6-7 years now. And it's gone up.
So it is just a tax.
It is a tax because the repayments aren't higher than the interest. So the interest rate on the loan was bigger. And it's just like, I know when I went to university, I had no clue about any of this stuff. No one told me anything. They just said, yeah, you just get a student loan. That's the only way you can do it. Simple as that. It was like, do you want to go to uni or not? The answer was yes. The rest of it is nothing left out.
Yeah.
That's it. Cool. You go to uni, then you just do it. You click these few things here. You get your parents to help you with this, and then
well, you do, mate. Not everyone.
No, as in like they fill in the forms for you. And then, not everyone. And then you go, and then suddenly there's money in your account, and then 5 years later you go, oh, I see.
A lot of people say it's the best loan you can take out because you only pay it back when you can afford to and all that stuff. Martin Lewis is always the person I see saying, it's still a good deal. Like, if you want to go to uni, it's better that it's like this than a different way of borrowing money.
There's a time where you don't have to pay it back.
Exactly. You can only pay it back when you afford it, and it's only a certain amount. So and at the end it gets wiped off. But that time's creeping up.
It's like
35 years now. It's ages. So I think, again, coming back to financial literacy, it'd be very interesting to see the specifics of what ends up being talked about in here. But I do think it's very good and is exactly what we should be thinking about. What's the role of school? Okay, if I were to think about what every child needs, this is almost top of the list.
Yeah, be prepared to live in the community. It's probably right at the top, isn't it, really?
Exactly that. Let's get to the big one. Very interested in this, oracy. I think this is vital. I love the the focus on this. I think it's fantastic. As someone who I think benefited a lot from what we can call oracy and being able to speak, and we're doing a podcast right now, like what's more oracy than this? But I look back at school and it really helped my confidence. It really helped my understanding. There was nothing bad about speaking more, and I think the way they've brought this in and the way they're going to link it with the reading and writing framework as well, and have oracy framework almost like a third pillar, I think it's absolutely the way to go about it, and I'm really, really excited for this.
It's essential, and a big part of oracy is listening, which I think is equally
listening.
Important. I know.
Listening.
You missed out on that bit, mate.
I just want to talk.
You learn how to talk. That was it. But it's speaking and listening.
Can I just talk?
Isn't it though? It's both.
Yeah.
And if you think about kids now, and I'm going to sound really boomerish here.
Oh, here we go.
But if you think about kids,
get my plate ready. This generation.
You think about behaviour and how it's changed over the last couple of decades. I do wonder how much of that is down to just really bad communication skills, just poor communication skills. We're not teaching oracy. We're not teaching speaking and listening like we used to. Really teaching it as in like, this is how you do it. Kids are getting to year 6 and they just don't know how to listen. They don't know how to do it.
How many times, honestly, with a child, have you like tried to have a conversation with them and very quickly realized that it's not a conversation? It's not a conversation because there is no back and forth. We've joked about it before. But there is no kind of listening. And don't get me wrong, a lot of children are great. You have a conversation with them. But they very much are like, I want to say this thing to you.
They're just waiting.
I want to say this thing to you right now.
Yeah.
I want to say this thing to you right now, this second. Because
they've learned politeness.
They've learned to be quiet until you stop speaking. And they're like, yeah, I went to the thing at the weekend. And it's like, oh, okay, we need to work on this. We can't just hope it fixed itself.
Yeah.
Because again, if you go out on the playground, there'll be the odd child who dominates conversation, the odd child who leads the way. And other children just aren't really listened to, and there's no back and forth.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm really excited for this bit of framework.
Definitely.
It does kind of make me think about maybe the next point we talk about, which is it's another thing. It's another thing to add in. When we're talking about the bloated curriculum earlier.
We'll get to that definitely.
But yeah, I think it's gonna be good. I can't see this being bad. I honestly can't think of a negative. I can't even think of what someone might think is a negative of this. Genuinely, like surely it's just a good thing.
I think so. And when you think about the point people always make to me is, and I can't argue this, is when people say, how on earth can we expect children to write in full sentences that make sense if they literally can't speak in full sentences that make sense? There is a clear progression in my head, which is you have to be able to say it and do it before you can then think about writing it on paper.
It's like when you get that kid, I've heard this phrase so many times in my career. Oh, they just stop. You're writing down like a stream of consciousness. There's always that thing, stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
It's like you're not thinking about your grammar
There's no
and punctuation.
full stop. Yeah.
You're just writing down, and I'm like, yeah, now listen to them talk. They talk like that.
Yes.
What do you expect them? When you say to them, stop writing down like a stream of consciousness, think about it.
Yeah.
Mate, they are thinking about it. That's how they speak in real life.
Yeah.
They've not had any training on oracy. Like they genuinely are writing like that because they don't know how to talk to you.
Yeah, completely. It's so true. And yeah, the proof's in the pudding. Writing is so hard. It's so hard. And I look at it and I just think there'll be a few people maybe who look at this and go, oh, we're taking away from the tricky stuff. I have to spend more time writing with my kids because they find it so tricky. I talk to my kids all the time. Oracy isn't just talking.
No.
In the same way, writing isn't just doodling. It's very specific. And what I like about this is it's being really clear of what oracy should look like. It's communication. It is speaking. It is listening. But it comes down to that word communication for me.
Yeah.
That encapsulates everything, right? It's about understanding how to say things out loud, how to have a backwards and forwards, and how to understand other people. It's a whole framework. I'm really excited, honestly, for it to come in and hopefully have that kind of push where teachers aren't then thinking, oh, I'm wasting my time doing this. This is a lovely thing to do, but this curriculum is just too much. It's just important.
That potential pushback there is a bit like, to me, someone coming in and saying, oh, look, we need to do loads of writing. That 10 minutes of model writing that you do, get rid of it because we just need the kids to have a bit more time writing.
The kids need to write more.
It doesn't make sense. It's like, no, that 10 minutes of modeled writing is absolutely essential to them being successful. Yeah. It's worth taking away 10 minutes of their independent writing because they will become better writers quicker.
Precisely.
It's worth it. It's an investment. You're investing 10 minutes, but you're getting way more than 10 minutes gain out of that compared to if they just had 10 minutes writing without it.
Yeah.
The same with oracy. It's going to be the same. We just need to get our heads around it, I think.
Absolutely. Definitely agree. There's one thing that jumped out before we talk about the whole, elephant in the room, this whole thing about how we're going to do all of this. There is just one thing I did quickly want to mention, which piqued my interest in a lot of people, was the GPS test at the end of Key Stage 2. And the idea that it's going to be replaced. So I'll read you the quote. We recommend replacing the existing GPS test with an amended version. This should retain those elements of current test that encourage effective teaching and a separate spelling element, and it should integrate short composition tasks. This should encourage a more proportionate and applied approach to learning grammar, punctuation, and spelling whilst developing good writing capabilities. Initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts are this could be really good, and it could be really bad.
Oh,
genuinely, I think this is one of those ones where I'm like, oh, this has got to be the right people doing this.
Okay.
It feels like, when I read that, it feels like that's come from a good place. And it feels like
Definitely.
experts are saying this is what we need to do. But just from my life experience, sometimes experts can be really heavily involved in the initial concepts of things, and then they're not so involved later on, and actually it gets completely blown out of, oh, we're going to do it differently now. It's like when someone adapts a game to become a film, and they just miss the entire point. It's like, oh, the idea, the concept was great.
Went to a game instead of a book.
Yeah, I know.
Famously making books.
Because do you know why? It's because yesterday I started watching The Witcher, and I know that there was loads of controversy around the new season, and Henry Cavill not
just here's where I break it to you that The Witcher is a book first and foremost.
Okay, all right. Is it a book before a game?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a game, then a book.
Well, we'll find
out.
Fake news. Why don't you find out yourselves?
Damn it,
instead of just listening to podcast bros talk about stuff, why don't you go and find it yourself, guys?
Which one do you think plays games? Which one do you think reads?
Here we go. Leave a comment on, if you're listening to Spotify, leave a comment down below. Was The Witcher either a book or a game first? We'll find out.
And which one's better? Don't know. Only play the game.
Didn't read the book or watch it.
Didn't read the book, watch it, or play the game.
Wasn't even made into a film, was made into a TV show. So your whole thing's right.
But anyway, just to explain that's where my analogy came from. But look, back to the point, Dylan. Ultimately, I think it probably will be a good thing. I was just saying there's a risk to it. It will be a good thing. I think the current GPS framework is moaned about a lot. It's absolutely mad how much the kids just have to know. It's just tick boxes, tick the front of the variable, tick this, tick that.
No context. That's what I don't like about it.
Realistically, why do we learn GPS? Is so we can apply it to our writing. So the idea of maybe making it a bit more applied towards writing is probably a move in the right direction.
I think it's great. We talk about actually going to some kind of short composition task. I can imagine it's something like, continue this conversation. There's a conversation between two characters and someone else says something and you've got to write it in that. That's fantastic use of it. Maybe it's, just there's some context where it's like in the next passage, use expanded noun phrases to describe this picture. And there's a picture of a tree and that kind of idea. I think that's a good thing.
Because you can get so many different bits of punctuation and grammar and composition out of that. Like I really like the idea of the writing task. It's like rather than saying to a kid, put the speech marks in the right place in this sentence, just get them to write a bit of dialogue.
Right.
Then you can test 7 things at once in terms of how well they understand how to write dialogue.
Might be harder to mark, genuinely, and assess, but I just think it's okay, cool. It's better for the kids though.
And more realistic. I can tell you right now, I have taught kids every single year of my career that can ace a GPS test because they can learn the superficial knowledge enough to know where to put the speech marks when they're being told to put it into a sentence. But will they use it in their own independent writing? No.
Right.
That's a big difference to me. Like you can tick that box, but you can't actually do it in the only thing that actually matters.
And we just spent a lot of time talking about how writing's really hard. Okay. But this is why what this might do, if this becomes the way we assess in GPS, right? What I like about what might happen as a result is the way it's taught will change. That's what I'm thinking all the time. That's what I'm thinking all the time. The amount of time is just, I hated the kinds of lessons, especially in upper key stage 2, you'd end up having to do because you knew the GPS test was coming.
Yeah.
But for goodness me, do you know what? It's much more better. It's just within my writing lessons already, I'll have short, sharp tasks that say, look, what can like continue this conversation and stuff, have a dialogue. The kinds of stuff where children can be imaginative and enjoy their writing and still apply all this stuff. That's the ultimate version.
I agree. Was there anything more boring than teaching a kid a whole lesson on prepositions?
No.
Where you give them a picture and they just have to describe where things are and relate to other things.
Yeah, there was actually determiners.
Oh, God, even worse. Honestly. But it's boring as hell, isn't it? Just integrate it into writing.
And how often, right? What kid doesn't put a determiner in?
I know.
Honestly, what kid isn't putting before the thing?
Yeah. Do they really need to know what it is?
Well, did you know that 7 is actually a determiner? Because it's determining how many... I don't care.
Hilariously is the opposite version of, I just did the speech one where a kid, easy in a GPS test, they can't put speech in it. Determiner, you can teach them what a determiner... Sorry, you can get them to use it in their writing really easily, but struggle to teach them what a determiner is for the test. So they get it wrong in the GPS test. Or they don't know what determiners are. Well, they do, because they're using them in their writing since they were 4.
And what's more important, the fact they use them correctly, or they can identify the name of a thing.
It's like, come on.
Oh my goodness me.
The balance is off. So
honestly.
I'm glad they're reviewing this in general, because the balance is off and it needs some looking at.
Definitely. Right. I want to finish off with talking about, it being manageable and the elephant in the room and assessing, being negative for a bit. But before I do, as always, I've probably forgotten something. Was there something that jumped out?
I mean, you've forgotten possibly the thing that interests us most, which is maths, which we decided we had it at number 1. We were like, we'll talk about maths midway through, and you've forgotten about it.
Right, go on. We've always talked about maths. Right, go on. Right. Okay, fluency, right?
It's to do with fluency, and obviously we talk about maths all the time, but it's really important.
We got a maths platform.
We got a maths platform that we happen to be building on fluency.
Sorry, very quickly, right? When the review came out, you, and you read it, did you not think that we could have written this ourselves?
I messaged you, didn't I? And I screenshotted one particular paragraph, and I said, I feel very vindicated right now.
Yeah, because
I was like, I feel like we've written this because this is what we're passionate about and have been for years. We're finally in the position where we can do something about it. Yeah. But we have for years and years and years felt extremely passionately about fluency in maths and how it is essential and underpins all of maths knowledge. And it's just the foundations to your house. And not to say it's been left behind, but maybe it's just not in the limelight as much as it should be, and some things have started to slip. Maybe a bit of mental arithmetic started to slip. Just that fluency of number, it started to slip a little bit. Yeah. Maybe even just the methods of arithmetic. People think, I don't teach them different ways. We'll just get through it quickly to get to the reasoning. It's all kind of slipping, and we've noticed that, which is why we're building our Mathsuit, our new platform.
Definitely.
But seeing it come up in this, I was like, well, this is brilliant.
It just summarizes everything we said. The review talked about a stronger focus on developing fluency, particularly for the younger children, particularly for children even in early years or year 1, year 2, etc., of understanding number and being able to manipulate it because that's your foundation. And furthermore, in terms of fluency, in terms of children being able to do mental maths, to be able to do processes confidently, accurately all of the time. And what I loved about it was it just drew a line. It had a piece of string between. It wasn't just saying, just this because. It was saying because this allows, in Key Stage 2 especially, for better reasoning and better problem solving. You have to get the foundations right. And I thought to myself, this is what we need to hear because we want to get it right. Kids have to be able to do the maths. It's not at the detriment. It's to enable everything else. It's not just saying, let's just practice arithmetic all lesson every single day. It's saying do short, sharp, often, do bursts, do things you've done before, practice new things, fill those gaps, because then when you come onto your lesson, you can get to that quality reasoning task, that amazing problem solving task, because your children are proficient and good at the basics. It was a breath of fresh air reading it. Number 1, because it's just fundamentally what we believe in. But number 2, because I really think now this platform we're building, starting off with arithmetic, moving into fluency in general, having something for early years and younger children to really understand number, it's all coming together.
And number 3, don't forget, is that we're fundamentally right. So we fundamentally agree with it because we're fundamentally right. Okay, it's really important, and this, like I said, vindicates us.
But don't you think when you're reading it almost all the way through, genuinely, not being big-headed now, but hopefully all the teachers out there feel the same way, where one thing after another, I was thinking, yes, this is what we think, this is what we agree. So my big thing now is watching what the government do to implement it.
Yeah,
they've accepted a lot, but I look at it and I think, do you know what? This could be done really well. There's one thing. How are we going to fit all of this in? This is all fantastic. We talk about bloat.
Yeah.
This is what we're really going to focus on now is actually, okay, how are we going to make it manageable? I was pleased to read that it directly referenced this in the actual review itself. So I want to read to you this quote. We recommend that the government involve teachers in the testing and design of programs of study as part of the drafting process. This must take into consideration the curriculum time that is available, ensuring the national curriculum is ambitious but teachable within a typical school day.
Well, we've already learned, haven't we? The national curriculum was already designed to leave extra time, and it doesn't. So I hope they don't use the existing framework of thinking that's true. In terms of like most cases, it isn't. I'm sure some schools are doing it fine, but most cases that is not true. The curriculum's already very bloated. I hope they take that into consideration. That'll be my only worry, is that they go, well, the curriculum's already got a bit of space for wiggle room, so we're just going to take out a little bit and replace it here, and think actually it's just as bad as before.
This is where we see, I think, a difference between what the review is saying and what the government might do. So the review is saying it's really important we do this. The review also talked about kind of just almost rejigging the order that you learn things. It talked about not repeating stuff as much and maybe pushing it further down the line. So having a more streamlined approach lower down to focus on stuff. It directly mentioned introducing too much too soon. I thought that was fantastic as well. So hopefully what we see is just in general stuff, just moving down the line a bit, just to get really solid. Talking about the maths example, but now approach for everything, getting the foundations right and not having to feel like we're rushing through stuff. That's vital. But, rejigging it alone is great. Introducing all, the Oracy framework, the extra bits and bobs, it's going to be a balancing act, I think, to not just rejig it so there's room and then fill it up again with all this new stuff.
Yeah, absolutely right.
We just have to get it right. We have to prioritize. We have to not be scared to say, we can't do this now. We can do X, Y, Z, but it's because we're going to drop A, B, C.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was particularly interesting, the resequencing bit, by the way, particularly interesting when it talks about maths, because to me, and maybe I'm wrong here, but when the national curriculum came in the mid 2010s, 2014, whenever it was written, the whole maths mastery approach that came in was very much about resequencing maths, in my opinion, away from the kind of traditional spiral curriculum where it was like lots of bits of maths everywhere, into this kind of block approach. And I feel like that's already been pretty well optimized. So to me, the resequencing bit when it comes to maths is less prevalent. And I see this as, I think so, because I think it's already pretty well sequenced.
Do you not think there's too much, though?
I think the problem is it's too much. So I think it's a case of just taking things out and pushing it up into Key Stage 3, perhaps, and not necessarily resequencing it in terms of, I guess you're kind of resequencing it, but that to me means like moving things around. I see. To me, it's like, no, just take some things out and then kind of leave it.
I feel like that's what they mean. I've got to read it. It said for maths, the review recommends resequencing content so topics are introduced in such a way that pupils can master them deeply and allowing opportunities for more complex problem solving. As long as it's embedded in that, I think that's good.
Yeah, I guess I was a bit thrown off. Like pupils can master them deeply. I'm like, well, that's kind of what we did for the last 10 years. But
do you think that's happening? I don't. I completely reject that is happening, because I don't think you master stuff quickly enough. I think if you look at, for example, year 1 and 2, a lot of time is spent on like number bonds and basic fluency. I feel like as you go through school, there's absolutely points in my career, and I'm going to say it right now. This is very interesting reading this, because I've received some pushback where I've said, I'm not teaching my kid that.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not teaching them that right now, because you know what they need to be able to do? Add and subtract,
spend a bit longer,
multiply and divide, understand, how number works, be able to break up a number. That, in terms of an ability to master that, is more important right now than me introducing what a heptagon is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I'm that's just an example. It could be anything, but there'll be some times where I think, do you know what? There is just a hierarchy here, and you understanding what a few shapes are called in year 8 instead of year 4, and I'm genuinely talking about that much time now.
Yeah.
As a professional, I'm like, do you know what's more use of your time now? Being able to manipulate number and understand and bridge 10 mentally and be able to do all these things. That is more vital. So I'm already doing that.
Yeah.
And there would have been pushback which says, well, in this curriculum, it says in year 4, you have to do all of these shape. I'm hoping the resequencing is basically saying, don't worry too much about this stuff. There is, it's okay to say there is, a pedestal here. These are on the top. Then it's this, then it's that. if you're not mastering this, you can have less time on that.
On the lower things.
And that's okay. And it could be a different topic in maths. I just think that's...
And number fluency is at the top of that, isn't it?
That's
Realistically,
what I mean.
It is on a pedestal.
Exactly.
Like, funny enough, I was having a conversation the other day with John, who is our software engineer, who's working on our app with us, our software. And
our maths platform.
Our maths platform. Our maths platform, Mathsu. You should get in touch, by the way, if you're a maths lead.
If you're a maths lead or leadership and want to solve fluency in arithmetic in your school,
get in touch.
We'll
book a demo in the new year. But I was talking to him, and we were literally talking about this exact thing about resequencing and just genuinely moving things up, and saying how there are double benefits. Sometimes not only does it just the physical moving of, like you said, heptagon shape, whatever, moving it up just makes that extra week in the one you're doing. Also, when you're older, you tend to learn things quicker.
That's what
there
I mean.
are some things where it's like you're going to learn it anyway. It's just a bit of knowledge at this point. Rather than spending 3 weeks learning it when you're 5 and it's a really hard concept to grasp, just spend half an hour learning it when you're 12.
Yeah.
Genuinely. Because then you actually, the difference in time there, you've brought all of that back.
And if you become fluent in understanding the basics, if you spend like an extra 5 hours on that, let's say, it does save you time. Like, because you're like, oh, I get how number work now. I understand the link between this and that. Oh, I've already learnt my times tables and I understand, at a fundamental level how these numbers interact with each other. Me understanding this fraction question now is like a piece of cake.
Exactly. Rather than trying to force it in. There are lots of compounding passive effects that are like positive effects that are hard to put down and hard to say tangibly this is going to happen.
Yeah.
But we do recognize that, of course, that analogy you gave there will happen if you spend longer on the foundations.
This is a big thing, I think, education in general, a big task we've got, is to convince the public who see themselves as stakeholders in education, rightfully. Their own children go there. They went through education as well. We've got to be able to convince them meaningfully that it's okay to do less sometimes. It's okay to focus on less, more, if that makes any sense. What I'm
fewer
saying
topics.
Yeah, but with more in depth, because in the long run, it pays off. That's tricky, and I can understand why governments are reluctant to say we're taking this out. There's a reason why the headline is always, we're adding oracy framework, we're adding enrichment, we're going to have more... There was a big thing about creative subjects we never even got into today, about music, about the arts. All of this stuff, there's a reason that sells. It's because it sounds great that we're doing more. We just have to, and I don't mind being that voice when someone online moans about being negative. We have to be realistic, is what I call it, and just say, look, okay, this does mean, though, something has to give. It mentioned it in the review. I hope that happens.
Absolutely. There was one final thing that I will say, the last thing, we'll leave it on this, that was in the curriculum for that, which I thought was really hilarious. And it literally said that if you really enjoy Teach It Repeats podcast, you should leave a review and you should share it with a friend. It genuinely said that. Yeah, you were absolutely captivated by that.
I was really ready.
This is it. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I thought, wow, what a nice shout out from the government.
And do you know what the official name of it was? It wasn't the curriculum review. It was Leave, Teach, Seek, Repeat a review.
Oh,
that's
really?
what it was called.
The actual article was called that, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's fascinating. Yeah. But you definitely should do that and follow and get your friends to leave us reviews as well. Because
why not? Just send it to your mum. Yeah. Send it to someone.
Say, just leave a review for these
just
guys.
Leave a review.
They're desperate.
They're good guys.
They're desperate.
They're desperate.
Leave them a review.
Just help out. Your Christmas gift.
They're pathetic, actually.
Christmas is coming up.
Yeah.
Do you remember when we started asking for this kind of stuff? We were like, oh no, we can't be too. Please, please,
come on. We need to make it big.
We need to make it. Guys, thank you so much.
I want to be in Hollywood next year.
I hope you found it useful, Hayden.
Yeah. You were gonna
no.
I've got something to say.
Go on.
Tune in to our next episode in 2 days' time.
There we go.
Where we'll be near.
See you then, guys.
With questions and answers. Bye.